People always say, Hotel California sounds like a dream, but behind the scenes, the band was living through a total nightmare. Underneath those melodious voices were ego clashes, cold shoulders, power grabs, and near fist fights nobody expected. We are about to spill how it really went down because the drama, it was hotter than the California sun. It all started. In 1971, Linda Ronstadt needed a band. Her manager, John Boylan, started pulling strings and brought in Glenn Frey, who had just moved to LA from Detroit, and Don Henley, a Texas boy with a serious drive.
Glenn Frey and Don Henley, I met them at the Troubadour Bar.
These two weren't besties yet, but they were both signed to Amos Records and bumped into each other at the Troubadour, the music spot in LA where legends were made.
Higher music scene over here, Doug Weston is really...
That's where things started to click. Frey and Henley hit it off fast. While working as backup for Linda on her tour, they started talking. They weren't trying to stay in the background forever. They had bigger plans.
And so I talked to Don Henley, and Don Henley and I, we wanted to be in a band. We wanted to have a band together, so we were still working with Linda Ronstadt.
Ronstadt was cool with it. She even suggested they bring in Bernie Leadon, who used to roll with the Flying Burrito Brothers. Then they got Randy Meisner, who was out here doing his thing with Ricky Nelson's band. And just like that, they had a squad. They only played one show together with Linda, at Disneyland of all places, but the chemistry was undeniable. Everyone could feel something was forming. Around that time, David Geffen was starting up Asylum Records. He heard about the crew, saw the vision, and signed them.
He told me to do this, and, I think we're going to be on his new label, and, none of this was really for sure.
He even paid to get them out of their old contracts and sent them to Aspen, Colorado, to vibe, practice, and figure things out. They didn't even have a name yet. For one show, they called themselves Teen King and the Emergencies. But the real name? That came one wild night in the Mojave Desert. They were off the grid, tripping on peyote and sipping tequila. Somewhere in that haze, the name Eagles stuck. The band members remembered it in different ways, but the desert gave them that name, period. Once they settled on the name Eagles, they were locked in. Their debut album dropped in 1972, and their first single, Take It Easy, took off fast. Co-written by Jackson Browne and Glenn Frey,
I helped Jackson Browne finish Take It Easy.
The song hit number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. But they weren't just some lucky guys who blew up overnight. Glenn Frey and Don Henley were writing most of the best songs that were bringing in the cash. Suddenly, they started making major decisions. But that control, it started to create tension. Come 1973, they followed up with Desperado. It had a cowboy theme and didn't make a big splash on the charts at first, but songs like Tequila Sunrise and the title track slowly turned into fan favorites. Still, the vibe behind the scenes was shifting. As the albums got bigger, the pressure started showing. Bernie Leadon was more of a country guy, and he didn't like where the sound was heading. It was getting more mainstream, more rock, and Frey, he was calling all the shots. He even said the band won't go on a vacation when Bernie suggested that.
Just go to Hawaii and get some sun on the beach and stop all this lifestyle. Take a breath and come back at it.
Bernie got fed up. One day in '75, he reportedly dumped a beer on Frey's head and walked away from the band. That was it. Then came Joe Walsh.
Bernie Leadon was the guy I replaced.
Total opposite, rock star energy. Joe Walsh once trashed a hotel room so bad, he made Rolling Stone's list of wildest rock star moments. He took a chainsaw to a hotel wall just to expand the room. Walsh was that kind of guy. But Henley and Frey liked him. He brought grit. They wanted to take the music to another level. And in 1976, they did. That's when they dropped Hotel California, and that changed everything. It was lit. The music video was even shot at the Lido Apartments, located at 6500 Yucca Street in Los Angeles, California. It gave the song that real LA vibe to match the mysterious feel of the track. The title track hit number 1 on Billboard Hot 100, and the album itself won Record of the Year at the 1978 Grammys. It became their biggest album, selling over 32 million copies worldwide. It was also ranked number 6 on VH1's 100 Greatest Rock Songs. That haunting guitar solo, that mysterious vibe about fame and excess, it was different. Don Felder was the guitar genius who wrote the music for Hotel California while chilling with an acoustic guitar on the beach.
Played it and played it and played it about 4 times. And I went, I've got to go record this before I forget it.
He recorded a rough demo on a cassette, sent it to Henley and Frey, and that masterpiece was born. But the masterpiece also brought chaos along with it, and a bittersweet history. It was their first album with Joe Walsh and last with Randy Meisner. After the Hotel California exploded, things began to get ugly.
This sort of ball and chain, this sort of thing that existed,
One day, Felder found out his vocals were straight up swapped for Henley's on a track, and nobody told him. Disrespectful. He felt like a ghost in a band he helped build. Meanwhile, the cash was rolling in. But Felder wasn't seeing enough of it. And he wasn't alone. Randy Meisner? He was over it too. Randy Meisner had extreme stage anxiety. He dreaded singing Take It to the Limit live because it hit such high notes, but fans loved to hear him sing it. One night he refused to sing.
But Randy didn't want to do the song that night.
Frey blew up on him, and that was the beginning of the end for Meisner in the band. Eventually, he left. He couldn't take it anymore. In 1980, Don Henley got arrested after a 16-year-old girl overdosed at his house. She had substances in her system. Henley was charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He pleaded no contest, paid fines, and did some community service. But that scandal never left his name. Then came the night it all blew up. For real. July 31st, 1980, Long Beach, California. The Eagles were doing this charity concert for California Senator Alan Cranston. But behind the curtain, it was anything but feel-good vibes. Tension was thick. Before the show even started, Senator Cranston's wife approached Don Felder and politely thanked him for being there. Felder, already on edge, hit her with a slick, sarcastic, "You're welcome, I guess." Glenn Frey heard it, and just like that, he was heated. The drama didn't wait till backstage. Nah, these dudes were performing live, smiling at the crowd and threatening to throw hands between songs. Frey told Felder, "I'm gonna beat your after this." And Felder, cool as ice, said, "You bring it, bro." Once the show wrapped, that was it. No press release, no final bow. The Eagles just ghosted. No more tours, no new music. Just pure silence.
I never really wanted to say we broke up. We just had to stop.
After that, Henley and Frey focused on solo careers. Henley thrived. He dropped bangers like The Boys of Summer. Frey also had hits like You Belong to the City, but they kept it cold with the others. When asked about a reunion, Henley once said they'd get back together when hell freezes over. Want to know how petty it got? When they did finally reunite in 1994, they named the tour Hell Freezes Over. They shocked everybody with a reunion, and yeah, they made money. Felder didn't vibe with how the money was split or how decisions were made by Henley and Frey behind closed doors. So he spoke up, started asking the kind of questions that made people uncomfortable.
6 minutes long and slow. You can't dance to it. So everybody wanted like rock and roll. And
Henley basically told him, "Be grateful you're even here." But Henley and Frey wanted a bigger share of the money.
Don and Glenn felt that they should get a much larger share.
By 2001, the old beef flared up again and Felder got kicked out. Just like that. After they kicked him out of the band in 2001, he came swinging with 2 lawsuits, one for wrongful termination and another for breach of contract. He was asking for $50 million, claiming Frey and Henley were hogging the money and cutting him out. They clapped back, saying he broke the band's agreement. It turned into a legal slugfest.
Well, what's happening? What kind of deals are you guys making for records or touring? Or hey,
Felder even dropped a tell-all book called Heaven and Hell, My Life in the Eagles, 1974 to 2001. Dragging Henley and Frey for treating the rest of the band like workers on their payroll, not partners, employees. The drama dragged on for years, but by 2007, they reached a quiet settlement behind the scenes. Nobody knows how much he got, but the case was closed. Felder got paid, and the Eagles kept it moving. Minus one more ex-member. The Eagles dropped Long Road Out of Eden in 2007. Their first album with all new songs since 1979's The Long Run. It made major waves, staying on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart for 64 weeks and racking up over 7 million copies sold by 2009. Real comeback energy. The Eagles didn't just fade out after fame and fall out. They kept going. Glenn Frey, one of the original brains behind the band, passed away in 2016 at just 67. He was battling all kinds of health issues: rheumatoid arthritis, pneumonia, and ulcerative colitis. At the time of his death, he was worth around $120 million. He left behind his wife, Cindy Milliken, a dancer and choreographer, and their 3 kids, Taylor, Deacon, and Otis. Now here's the twist. Don Henley said he wouldn't have kept the band going if it weren't for Deacon stepping in. And just like that, Glenn's son, Deacon Frey, hit the stage and started carrying that legacy like a pro.
The death of beloved frontman Glenn Frey, his young son, Deacon, has stepped up to take his place.
Meanwhile, Don Henley is still standing like the boss he's always been. Worth around $200 million, he's married to former model Sharon Summerall, and they've got 3 kids. He still performs and watches over the Eagles brand like a hawk. And don't get it twisted, he's still petty. Just recently, he dragged folks to court over stolen Hotel California lyrics. Then you've got Joe Walsh. He went through it. Years of addiction and chaos, but he cleaned up and came back swinging. He's still out here touring like it's 1976, worth about $75 million. Joe's married to Marjorie Bach, Ringo Starr's sister-in-law, yep, rock royalty, and it's his 5th marriage. This one seems to finally be the real thing. He's got 4 kids, Emma, Lucy, Alden, and Christian. Timothy B. Schmidt is still doing his thing too, low-key and smooth. He's always been the quiet one, but solid. Worth around $25 million, he's married to Jean Cromie, and they have 2 children. Still plays, still stays out of the mess. Randy Meisner kept it quiet after he left the band, but life wasn't kind. He dealt with serious health issues and deep personal loss. He died in July 2023 at 77 from COPD complications.
Singer Randy Meisner, whose vocal range helped catapult the Eagles to fame, has died.
His wife, Lana Meisner, died tragically in 2016 from an accidental shooting at home. Together, they had 3 kids. Bernie Leadon, the same one who poured a beer on Frey's head before quitting, later made peace with the crew. He even came back briefly for the History of the Eagles tour. These days, he's chill, private, and pops out when it counts. And then there's Don Felder. He was married to Susan Felder. They split. And they had 4 kids, Jesse, Leah, Cody, and Graham. The Eagles bagged 6 Grammys, including Record of the Year for Hotel California. They also scooped up 5 American Music Awards and got their flowers big time when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '98. And all 7 members, yes, even the fired ones, showed up. The tension thick.
Thank you.
They also ranked number 23 on VH1's 100 Greatest Artists of Rock and Roll and number 38 on VH1's 100 Greatest Albums. The Eagles sold over 120 million albums worldwide. Their Greatest Hits is one of the best-selling albums of all time in the US. It even moved Michael Jackson's Thriller to number 2 on the all-time charts. So what are the Eagles up to now? As of 2025, the Eagles are on their farewell tour, and they're calling it the Long Goodbye. They're doing a big residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and the lineup's still stacked. Don Henley, Joe Walsh, Timothy B. Schmidt, Deacon Frey, and country legend Vince Gill, holding it down. Sadly, longtime touring guitarist Stuart Smith had to step back in early 2025 after being diagnosed with Parkinsonism. Tough news, but the band's keeping the train rolling. So next time you hear Hotel California playing, just remember, while you're vibing to the smooth guitar and chilling lyrics, the people behind it were falling apart. That's the real story, love. No gloss, no glitter, just pure, painful truth wrapped in one of the greatest rock songs ever made.